Joel, you have been in Armenia, and you have been among one of the loudest voices speaking out about what is going on in Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia. And let's we'll get into some of the backstory for those who don't know. But you're there, you've been in Armenia. What are you seeing on the ground there in relation to this blockade and its impact?
Well, Billy, 3 nights ago, I was at the entrance to the Lachin corridor, which is the only road that connects Nagorno-Karabakh to the rest of the world. And I could see for myself the Azerbaijani military checkpoint that's not letting any traffic through. On the other side, I could see Azerbaijani military trucks going back and forth, bringing supplies, but there was nothing coming in for the people. And at that site, there were 20 trucks, trailer tractors, full of 400 tons of humanitarian aid, just stuck there, not being able to move. They've been there since July 19. So that's what we can see with our eyes. But when we call our friends in Nagorno-Karabakh, who are only 50 miles away, they tell us they have no food. 4 days now, there's been no flour, no bread in the entire region, as far as we know. And people are hungry. Wow. People are going hungry.
And this has been going on for nearly a year. I mean, we go back to last December. We are now inching towards October, right? We're in September right now, and it's unbelievable that this has continued to go on. You and I have talked in the past about medical care. You're talking about food, which people need to live, other resources, electricity, obviously, in the winter, having the ability to have the gas you need for heating. All of these things have been constrained. And Azerbaijan has repeatedly said, and officials have tried to claim that there is no blockade, that this blockade isn't happening. But you were there. We know that's not true, but you've seen this, obviously. So why do you think they've continued to try to downplay what's going on?
Honestly, Billy, the UN Security Council met a few weeks ago and to discuss this issue. And the Azerbaijani ambassador was there. And when it was his turn to defend his country's actions, he held up a picture of a cookie that he had found on the Instagram account of an Armenian person in Karabakh. And he said, look at this picture from Instagram. They have tasty cookies. There's no blockade. And when I see that, I think he's laughing at us. The only reason he's doing this is to show us that he can say the most ridiculous things and no one will punish his country for it. That's what I think. I think they lie because they can. They lie to show us that no one's going to hold them accountable, and it's enraging.
Well, and they've gone, this has been going on for so long now, and there's a complicated, back historical narrative here that we won't have time to get into all of, but I do want to ask you, because you're in Armenia, you've been talking with people who have been impacted, by Azerbaijan, by what has gone on. What has this experience been like for you this week, even just emotionally and spiritually?
Yeah, it's been very dark. I was talking to a friend last night his wife's parents are in Karabakh, along with her 7-year-old brother. And her father says, I'm going to stay and fight and die. I don't care. And my friend was saying to me, Joel, what am I doing here? I'm praying, but my prayers aren't answered. I don't know what to do anymore. So I think a lot of people are in a really dark place. The spiritual evil that's hanging over this region is very great. 120,000 people might be killed in the next few months, and no one seems to care. So it's been challenging for me, to be honest. And, we have to go back to the Lord again and ask him for his deliverance and ask him for a miracle and trust that he knows best for this region. But it's been extremely difficult. I talked to a young woman whose sister in Karabakh has diabetes and whose brother has severe allergies, and neither of them have the medicines that they need to really live, and they're getting sicker and sicker. What do we say to them?
What happens if there's a severe medical issue, right? This road, the only road in and out, is blocked. If somebody is pregnant and they're going to deliver a baby, the supplies that are needed for that, what is happening in these intense emergency situations where people need medical care, perhaps outside of that area, and they can't exit?
People are dying. We've had multiple cases of women who lost their babies at the point of delivery because there was no fuel for ambulances to take them to the hospital. And that's the point that we're at right now. There's over 2,000 people who need surgeries who can't get them. The Red Cross is able to bring a certain number of people out of Karabakh for treatment, but some of those people are kidnapped by Azerbaijan when they go. So lots of people who need to go don't go because they're afraid that they'll be grabbed by soldiers and shoved into a car at the checkpoint. So
yeah. Well, I was going to mention to you, and we've talked about this before, but I think it's worth bringing up. One of the things that some people have said on the Azerbaijani side is, well, look, the Red Cross is able to take people, in and out. And so clearly the road is not blocked. And I thought that was an interesting argument, because when the Red Cross is showing up somewhere, it's because there's a crisis, right? They're showing up to transport people because there's a need for them to be there, right? So that's been an interesting argument to see. But to your point, this is limited, right? This is limited. There are 2,000 people, as you said, who are not able to get the surgery. You mentioned the need for food, resources, gas. That is absolutely horrific about the women losing their babies because the resources aren't there. What can people be doing? Because it feels like a very hopeless situation and the media are not covering it as intensely as it should be covered. How can people respond to this around the world?
I think especially for people in the United States, it's important to call the White House or write to the White House and tell the president not to approve military aid to Azerbaijan. It's important to call your congressman and tell him to support him or her to support House Resolution 320. In support of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh who are under siege. And, it's campaign season already. If you have a preferred candidate in the Republican campaign, call them or write to them and ask them, hey, have you heard about this? What are you going to do about this? The Biden administration is completely dropping the ball here. I would love to see this become an issue in the 2024 campaign. And please pray. I have friends now in Iowa who are praying and fasting for the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. And I'm so touched by that. And I do believe that there's power in that.
Absolutely. And remembering too, and you mentioned this, 120,000 people, the majority of the people who are entrapped there right now are Armenian Christians. And so there is an element of this when we talk about genocide. And that's an alarm that you have sounded, that this could become a potential genocide, what is going on there. I think there are so many questions around that. And again, I know we can't get into all of it, but before we go, one of the questions people might have, they might be wondering, well, why? Why is there a blockade? What is the issue that Azerbaijan has? Is it a religious issue? Is it a territorial issue? How would you respond to that question?
I would say it's a national issue and a religious issue. Armenia and Azerbaijan became independent from the Soviet Union 30 years ago. And that's when Nagorno-Karabakh became a free, independent republic. And ever since then, Azerbaijan has been on a national quest to conquer this land. Often when governments don't have a lot to offer their people, what they offer their people is a struggle or a war or an enemy. So Azerbaijan is a very rich country. It has a lot of money to spend on its military, but its people are very often poor. The president of Azerbaijan also has plenty of money to buy houses in London, for example. But to keep the people energized and keep them supporting the government, they've fed them for 30 years this narrative that the Armenians are on our land and we have to get rid of them. We have to exterminate them. And that's a very difficult genie to put back into the bottle. That's why every time Azerbaijan conquers Armenian land and captures Armenian people, those people are killed. And sometimes they're tortured. This is the level of hatred that we're at. And if Azerbaijan conquers Nagorno-Karabakh, that's what we're going to see on a much, much larger scale.
And it's important to remind people of what has already happened in the past with Armenian Christians and the genocide. This is, there is a history here. This is incredibly troubling. It's gone on for almost a year. And I appreciate you sounding the alarm and continuing to speak with us about this. Joel Veldkamp, your organization is Christian Solidarity International. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Billy.